Hey YouTube, league turnover today. There's only 2 weeks left in the season, and unfortunately, one of the leagues this week is Master League. So Retro Cup is the only Great League option you have if you would like to play it. Now, it's not too bad. It is just 3 typings banned: Dark, Steel, Fairy, which means there's still a lot of typings out there, which is decent. So let's actually look at what the rankings are. We'll kind of go over why stuff is up, etc. So the first thing you'll notice is some kind of interesting ones up there, like Licky Licky's up to number 2, Orangaroo's up to number 3. You got some Arctibacs up there as kind of a random one at 8. So you may be wondering, like, why? Like, what's going on that these Pokemon have jumped up? And basically, you just need to look at, for a second, we'll just put this back up here. Let's move it to the corner. What has been banned and how that affects the Pokemon still in this meta? Dark, Steel, and Fairy. So right off the bat, Dark being banned helps to a certain extent Licky Licky because the Shadow Ball won't be resisted. It helps Orangaroo because Orangaroo is half Psychic, so it doesn't take Super Effective, and Confusion isn't resisted. And then Cresselia, because again, it takes Super Effective. Anything that takes Super Effective from Dark gets a bumped. Drifblim, Cresselia, all these Pokemon that take Super Effective from Dark. Fairies banned, so there are your dragons. Arctibacs at 8, Hakmo at 12, Goodra at 17, because Fairy's banned, you don't need to worry about that. Steel being banned. Now, Steel being banned doesn't really affect what Steel does super effective against. It affects what doesn't have moves really for Steels. So, example, like I'll just go to Orangaroo because it's at number 3. Orangaroo with Confusion would be banned, Confusion would be resisted, and Trailblaze would be resisted. So then it could only throw a non-stab Brutal Swing, which doesn't really give it a lot of strength. So having that banned helps it out there. And same thing with like Jump Off up at number 10, right? Grass and Flying would be all resisted by Steel, so it gets a buff. So a lot of this on this list is Pokemon that get a buff because of what is banned, mixed with meta Pokemon anyway. So let's just cover all the meta Pokemon first, and then I'll kind of go over these other Pokemon and where they face. Meta Pokemon. Clodsire has been the number 1 Pokemon in this league for a while. Poison Sting buff. Earthquake, nice stab move. Stone Edge, nice coverage move. Primeape with Rage Fist. As you become the number 1 fighter, you can really it's a nice bait move. It buffs your attack guaranteed. Only takes 4 Karate Chops to get to, and only 5 to close combat, so you can buff your attack quick and then close combat nuke. For Alligator, one of the best safe swaps in the league. Shadow Claw and Hydro Cannon combo is insane. Dunsparce is an amazing safe swap. Very bulky with Drill Run, Rock Slide coverage there with the new buffed rollout. Drifblim, I'll cover Drifblim after because Drifblim is pretty good, but it wasn't like top ranked. Jumpluff was like a top 20 anyways because it was one of the best flyers. All the flyers got nerfed right with wing attacks, so Mandibuzz and Jumpluff were really the top 2 flyers, and Mandibuzz is banned because Dark is banned, so Jumpluff is one of your only flyers left. Cresselia also was like a top 20 Pokemon just because it has an insane amount of bulk with some coverage moves. Diggersby was always a top Pokemon because it is extremely bulky and has the sort of Scorching Sands, which deals well with Clodsire. Clodsire again. Marowak, Shadow Marowak. I've kind of gone over this Pokemon a bunch of times. That's Mud Slap buff and Bone Club buff combined with the same type attack bonus on ground combined with the Shadow bonus. This thing really puts out a lot of damage. So very strong. And Toxpack, same thing, just very, very bulky. Great answer. Well, it was a great answer to Fairies like Azumarill, but Azumarill's not allowed in this meta. So maybe a little nerf on the rankings, but still pretty decent. So those were always the normal ones. Then I'm going to go over the ones that are like, we're always kind of, Gastrodon. I missed Gastrodon, sorry. Gastrodon at 14, Mud Slap buff. It was always the top 10 to 15 just because you have hard hittingness of Mud Slap. You got a bait move, which is not great anymore, Body Slam, and then Earth Power, which is a nice ground move as well. Then you had a couple Pokemon on this list that were always sort of top meta anyways. Not meta, but like top like 30 ranked anyways. Licky Licky. Dunsparce is usually the go-to safe swap, but Licky Licky wasn't like an option as well if you needed a different normal type safe swap. Drifblim, again, Ghost got Astonish got a huge buff this season, so Drifblim has been on a few of my teams that I talked about how strong it is. there. Jump Luff, same thing. It was always like a top. I think, oh, I kind of already went over Jump Luff. Aurorus. I do have Aurorus on a team, I think. It's so highly ranked, yet if you've ever used it, it has so many weaknesses. It has like 5 or 6 weaknesses. It's Ice and Rock. So you pick up like a double fighting weakness with primates everywhere. That makes it a little riskier. Your rocks, you're weak to ground, and just like, So I have a love-hate with Aurorus because you can... Powder Snow, Weather Ball is a nice combo, and then Meteor Beam is like a nuke of a rock move. So again, maybe it gets a little bit of a buff because Ice and Rock would be resisted by Steel. So you get a little bit there maybe. And then, yeah, and then the ones who rose, I kind of already talked about them, right? Oranguru rose because there's no darks and steals, which would otherwise resist the confusion. So it has good bulk. Confusion, like Clodsire is everywhere. Primeape is starting to come out, so now you have an answer to the poison and the fighting. You have Brutal Swing, which again, Fairy's banned and so is Dark, so that move is probably going to land a bit more. And with Dark's banned, there may be more ghosts like Drifblim, so having Brutal Swing is great there. And then Trailblaze for all your like water ground Pokemon. So should play as a pretty good safe swap in this meta. Kind of already went over the Dragons. The Dragons are always pretty strong. They're held in check by Fairies, Azumarill being the main one. But the Dragon Breath, Dragon Tail damage make these just pretty strong Pokemon in general. Able to kind of hold their own against most things. And then the Avalanche on the Arctibax gives it the advantage because Avalanche is such a hard-hitting move. And then Guja, same thing. Just has the bulk and then that Community move. So Dragons, less Steel resisting the Dragon Breath, less Fairies resisting the Dragon Breaths. They get a buff. I already talked about Drifblim. And that is everything. That is everything. So let's look at some teams here. I guess I can leave the info up on the corner here. No, I can't. Okay. So always start with the #1 ranked Pokemon to see what's going on. So start with Clodsire. And I'm like, okay, Clodsire is going to be weak to ground. It's going to be weak to water. Let's cover the ground and water with an option on the other end. Serperior is the option on the other end. Serperior is going to be weak to fire. And so it is weak to fire, which you can deal with Clodsire. You are double weak to ice. You know, there's going to be some ice, like Dugong's always a threat. But actually says you beat Dugong in all 3 of these Pokemon deep. Yeah, I guess with Dugong, you also hit super effective with the grass and with like the Stone Edge. So I guess it makes sense. And then your safe swap is Oranguru for all the reasons that I mentioned. Confusion should be pretty free in this meta with the Dark and Steel typings banned. So with that Confusion, with that bulk, being able to buff that Confusion with Trailblaze or hit with Brutal Swing should be a pretty good safe swap. So basically you see water, you see ground on the lead, safe swap Oranguru, and then decide whether you want to fight for switch or grab a shield or let it go. Take a look at my video yesterday afternoon. I kind of go over how you play those balanced teams. Towards the middle end of the video, I kind of explain like, this is a balanced team. This is when you leave the lead. This is what happens if you get like a good safe swap on their end. This is what happens if you get a bad one. You're going to lose anyways. So I kind of go over all those scenarios if you want to check that out. Primeape, Aurorus, Jumpluff. So Primeape, as you can see by those win losses there, quite a lot of wins now. Just that Karate Chop is one of the best fast moves in the game. Close Combat is a nuke. You now have a bait move that also boosts your attack. So just a deadly combo. Obviously going to have trouble primarily with flyers, poison that resists the fighting move, stuff like that. So Aurorus covers the flyers as a rock ice and covers your main poison in Clodsire. You also have rocks, so you do well just against poisons in general. As you can see with the Toxapex win. So there's those two. And then basically my third, I would probably use Primeape as a safe swap on this team. I'd go Aurorus or Jumpluff lead and then kind of cover each other off, and then have Primeape as the safe swap, because the first thing that I noticed was like, ooh, Primeape, Aurorus, they're pretty glassy Pokemon, so I need something with bulk. So that's why I put in Jumpluff. And then Primeape, weak to flying, Aurorus weak to fighting. Jumpluff kind of covers that as well. So I think all three kind of cover each other's weaknesses, more of like a triangle as opposed to like the perfect cover each other's weakness with the safe swap. So I still think these three probably work well together, but I would probably use Primeape as the safe swap on this team. You're going to see in the last week of the season, I've hit Legend. For those of you who are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. You would know that. It was my 18th Legend in the last 19th season. And I ran from 2,500 to 2,900 in the Open Great League with Feraligatr, Dunsparce, Mandibuzz. So Mandibuzz is banned. Feraligatr, Dunsparce, Tropius. You can use Jumpluff. I just used Jumpluff on the other team, so I didn't want to showcase it again. So Tropius, Jumpluff, interchangeable here, but basically took the same. I think I used, yeah, they both kind of fit the same bill. The reason that I chose that team in the Open Great League is because I wanted 3 Pokemon that threw their charge moves at 12 turns or less. So Feraligatr gets to the Hydro in 10 turns. Dunsparce gets to their charge moves on the 12 the first time and then 9 the second time. And then with Snarl, you get the Aerial Ace quick and the Dark Pulse decent pace too. So that's why I put them together. So that's why I put Tropius, or I don't think it has the exact same play because they're a little slower here, but has the same sort of Tropius. Jumpluff has the bulk that you can kind of see in Mandibuzz. Has the flying type that covers the grass weakness on Feraligatr as well. So I think that the principle of the team still works. Just sub out Mandibuzz, put in flyer of choice. Drifblim, Gastrodon, Licky. And this is sort of a balanced team, just cover your weakness, right? So Gastrodon only has one weakness. It is a mud boy, so it only has one weakness in grass. Drifblim, as your flying type Pokemon, will resist the grass, and then you have Licky as a safe swap. So Drifblim is also weak to, Dark is banned, which is great. It is weak to Ghost. You also hit super effective against Ghost, so that's okay. But then you could also have Licky as a normal typing, which will deal with the Ghost as well. So basically a balanced team with the safe swap. There are some, Drifblim has some losses there, but you can two-shield a lot of these because Astonish is such a hard-hitting move now that it just can take out a lot of Pokemon. This one's called There's No Fairy in this meta. And Annihilate, Hakamo, and Arctibax. So at first I was actually going to start with a Poison Double Dragon. So you could still do this. You can put in Toxapex on the lead. You can go Toxapex lead, Double Dragon in the back, try and draw out a Ice type Pokemon. Because Fairy is banned, so try and dry out the Ice type Pokemon and then punish it with like Toxapex as the Water type Pokemon. You can also just do that if it's the Ice you're pulling out. You can also just take care of that with the Fighting and Annihilate. And Annihilate is decent because it answers some of the other top meta Pokemon, right? You can do well against Licky. You can do well against Primeape. You could do good against Dunsparce. So instead of having Toxapex, which is like kind of neutral to all those, have an answer to them. Now, it actually says you beat Clodsire, which Toxapex would also lose to as well. So from that perspective, I think it has maybe a little more play. And with Fairy banned, you don't need to worry about it as much. I mean, there are other Pokemon that could be, we've just seen it in the Willpower Cup that we just had. There are Pokemon that have Fairy type moves, like Cresselia on this team has Moonblast. That would hit super effective against all 3 of those, but you can potentially combo it just with like the fast move damage with the Dragon Breath, Rage Fist on Annihilate, stuff like that. So this one I started with bulk and safe. I started Cresselia, Dunsparce, basically just from the fact that they're bulky, they kind of hit fast with the Grass Knot anyways, and they're safe. And like, okay, now what's a third Pokemon that hasn't been used a bunch that maybe has play? And I put in Talonflame, but there is a lot of losses. And I think you get, there's Feraligatr, which is meta. There's Dunsparce and Licky that have Rollout and Rock Slide on Dunsparce. Oh, sorry. This is the wrong. on PVPoke, you can put in teams, and they will show you the win-loss against the main meta, and then they will show you the win-loss against other Pokemon. So this is actually the other Pokemon that you're seeing here, which is why you're seeing so many circles. If we go against, so what I'm doing is I'm just putting it into the main thing now, and I'm just going to bring it up as a window capture so you can see, because it looks much better against the main meta. So here's all your weaknesses. But we're not worried about the weaknesses, right? We're worried about the main meta. So your main meta is right here. And as you can see, a little better. You still have like the Dunsparce and the Feraligatr and stuff like that. That can cause a little bit of problems. But overall, a lot more play against the main meta. Talonflame just with like the Fly Brave Bird combo, if you want there, can hit, again, Steel's Band. Fly Brave Bird will land on a lot more things. And then you have that bulk in Cresselia and Dunsparce. So a little better looking graph than the first one. And we'll get rid of that. And we'll go one more team. I don't know how much play it's going to have in the current meta. So this was, as you can see, an old team. Retro Cup is not new. Niantic does not think of creative leagues. They recycle old ones, which is helpful and not helpful because the meta changes. So some teams are useful, some teams are not. Ninetales, Trevenant, Frostlass. You know, anytime there is a limited meta, Frostlass becomes meta. And it has the strength of Dark being banned, which is one of the main problems that's going to have. So with that banned, it always should rise. Trevenant, Ninetales are two Pokemon that I think I personally just like using. You know, in the current meta, I think Ninetales is tougher to run. I think Fire in general is tougher to run this meta. You have some Waters and Toxapex and Feraligatr, and you have a lot of ground, Gastrodon, Marowak, stuff like that, Clodsire. So I think it's a little tougher to run, but it's an option there. And Trevenant is Trevenant is so low ranked right now. But again, it's a double ghost line because there are no darks, which is why I ran it. Double ghost, there's no darks, so you don't need to worry about that as much. Maybe save swap Frostlass. You're double weak to rock as well with Frostlass Ninetales. So you can switch up the Ninetales if you want into something else that can maybe deal with maybe rock or fire. Actually, they're both weak to fire as well. Not that there's a lot of fire because, again, so many ground. But you can just, if you want to just be safe, just put in like a Gastrodon or something on the lead just to give you a little more coverage. But that is it. I expect to see just modified Great League teams, right? Clodsire, Primeape, Feraligatr, Dunsparce. These are very, very Gastrodon Great League meta Pokemon. Like I said, my modified 2500, 2900 team is Feraligatr, Dunsparce, and then look at that. If you just put in Jumpluff at the 10 and 15, you have 3 of the top 10 Pokemon and a very strong team, right? So I think with that, you're going to see a lot of what you're used to with some just like kind of random ones, like a few more dragons, or Rangaroo should show up a bunch because of the strengths there. But for the most part, it should be a lot of the same old. That is it. Let me know what you are playing and if you are, what you're playing this week and what league you're playing. I assume Retro Cup, and the Pokemon you are using or team you're thinking about using. Also, Master League teams is what I normally do this afternoon. But for those of you who have been on this channel for a while know that I do not play Master League. Not because I don't want to. Master League in the early seasons was my favorite league. Actually, it was my favorite league, and that's the league I actually did the best in. But that was level 40. And then they changed it to level 50. So I make a plea to Niantic to give us level 40 Ultra League and Master League back. So if you want to watch that video, stay tuned this afternoon. I discussed that topic there. And yeah, let me know what you think about that as well. Anyways, that is it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.